All right, I'm gonna real quick go through the chapter 12 tests. So you might need to kind of drag through to get to the questions that you need clarification on. Okay, for the first one, we need to do division. We're dividing a polynomial by a monomial. So the way I did it, remember, we can just divide each of these by 3x and then use our exponent rules to simplify them. 4/3 doesn't simplify, so we'll leave it as 4/3. X to the third over x is x squared minus 5x minus 2. 6x over 3x reduces out. That's going to be our final answer for that one. On number 2 is when we'll use long division. Remember, when we use long division, this is what comes outside. 5x squared plus 4x minus 7. It's already in the correct form, so we don't need to rearrange or add any exponents. So then what we do, remember, is what times x gives us 5x squared? That will be 5x. We'll do 5x times x is 5x squared. 5x times 2 is a positive 10x. Remember, then we're going to switch both of the signs. 5x squared minus 5x is eliminated. 4x minus 10x is negative 6x. Bring down our negative 7. And then we're looking what times x gives us negative 6x? Minus 6. Negative 6 times x is negative 6x. Negative 6 times positive 2 is negative 12. Remember, switch both of our signs. So this is eliminated. Negative 7 plus 12 is 5. Since 5 is our remainder, we write it over to x plus 2. So our quotient is 5 minus 6 plus 5 over x plus 2. Remember the formula or the process? We're going to factor. There are three values that we're going to do. So we'll use up to 5x. Reflecting parentheses is x minus 5. On our denominator, we have 15x to the fourth. 15 times what is going to give us 0, so our excluded value is 0. Remember, because we'll do 15x to the fourth is equal to 0, and that will give us our excluded value. Then we're looking, what can we reduce? 5/15 reduces to 1/3. X over x to the fourth reduces to 1 over x to the third. So our simplified answer is x minus 5 over 3x to the third. Let's look at the next one. We're going to factor our numerator. So our numerator factors to x plus 2, x minus 3. The denominator is the difference of squares, x plus 2, x minus 2. Remember now, this is when we stop and hit our excluded values. We set both of these equal to 0 to get our excluded values. So our excluded values are going to be 2 and negative 2. Then we look at what we can eliminate. We have an x plus 2 both in the numerator and the denominator, so they're eliminated. Our simplified answer is x minus 3 over x minus 2. You'll remember that 5 had a typo, and so we had said to omit that from the test. Let's look at the multiplication problems, okay? There's two ways to do these. Remember, we can multiply then reduce, or we can reduce then multiply. So for this first one here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to multiply straight across. 6 times 4 is 24. X to the second over x times x to the third is x to the fifth. And in my denominator, we will multiply and have 16x to the third. Now I need to reduce my two parts of my fraction. So when I look at the coefficients, 24 over 16 is going to reduce. 8 goes into both of those. That will reduce to 3 over 2. And then x to the fifth over x to the third, that's going to reduce to x squared. So our simplified answer is 3x squared over 2. Now, real quick before we move on, we could have done this a different way. I know some people like to cross, okay, we could have cross reduced the x to the second, excuse me, we could reduce 4 over 2 to 2 over 1, and then we could reduce again these other numbers. You can do any combination of those so long as at the end it is completely reduced. Any way you do it, this had better be your final answer, 3x squared over 2. Number 7, remember, first we factor, then we reduce. So we're looking at x to the third over, or x to the third minus x squared. Again, the first thing we're going to do, our GCF is x squared. That leaves in parentheses x minus 1. On our denominator here, x squared minus 16, that's the difference of perfect squares. X plus 4, x minus 4. Oh, Cash, money came to visit. Okay, so we're going to continue factoring the second fraction. So we look, there's nothing to factor out of x plus 4, so we leave it in parentheses, and we'll leave 2x squared in the denominator. So now we're going to look at what we can eliminate from both our numerator and our denominator. X plus 4 is eliminated. We have x squared and x squared here, so we can cross reduce those out. This leaves in our numerator x minus 1. And if you want to put it in parentheses, you can, but of course you don't have to. And in our denominator, we're left with 2 and then x minus 4. All right, this is where I think we ran into some trouble. When we're dividing, remember we multiply by the reciprocal. So you're going to factor and we're going to multiply by the reciprocal. So for this one here, our GCF is 3x. What's left in parentheses is x plus 2. Our denominator just stays 4x. Now we're going to make this times, and we're going to flip that fraction around. X squared over 5x. And now I'm looking for what I can reduce. So right away, what I'm drawn to immediately is the 4x and the 8x squared. So 4 and 8 are going to reduce to 2 and 1. So I've reduced those. Now I'm looking, what else can I reduce? I see an x here and an x here. I'm going to go ahead and eliminate those. Those reduce out. And then when I look here at x squared over x, those are both going to divide out an x, and we're going to be left with just an x in the numerator. So this is helpful sometimes to rewrite what we still have. In this fraction, we still have 3 and x plus 2, and then in this fraction, we have 2x over 5. So our final answer is going to be putting all of that into 1. So simplified, we're going to actually do 3 times 2x. We'll have 6x. And then x plus 2, and then 5 stays our denominator. All right, let's look at number 9. When we have this complicated fraction, it's important to first rewrite this as a different problem, okay? So we're going to make this x squared minus 2x minus 8 over 6x minus 3x squared divided by x to the third plus 4x squared over x squared minus 4. And now when I go ahead and I rewrite this as a multiplication problem, what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip the second fraction as I factor. So this first numerator is going to factor to x minus 4, x plus 2. My denominator is going to factor out a GCF, and the GCF will be 3x. This leaves in parentheses 2 minus x. Now we're going to make it a multiplication problem as we flip this fraction. So x squared minus 4, that's a difference of squares, that goes in the numerator. X plus 2, x minus 2. And from our numerator, which is now moving to our denominator, x to the third plus 4x squared, our GCF is x squared. We're left with x plus 4. So now we're looking, what can we eliminate here? So there's not actually that much that comes out of this fraction, which I know kind of made some people uncomfortable. The only thing that looks like we can do anything with is the 2 minus x and the x minus 2. And you'll remember that we talked about how to rearrange this 2 minus x. We're going to make it into negative x plus 2, and then we factor out a negative 1, and we're left with x minus 2. So this is gone, and we've replaced it with this, and now this is gone. So this blue is what we're using for our numerator. Now we see we can eliminate x minus 2 and x minus 2. So we're looking what's left in our numerator. We have an x minus 4, an x plus 2, and we have 2x plus 2, so you can either write them both out or you can write using the squared. And then in our denominator, we're left with 3x times negative 1 times x squared, which will give us negative 3x to the third, and x plus 4 stays in parentheses. So this ends up being our simplified answer. Let's move on to addition and subtraction. Remember, we need our common denominator, so let's go ahead and start with these two. On number 10, we have a common denominator. 6x plus 7x, we just put them over the same denominator. Remember our fraction rules, it does not change. 6x plus 7x is 13x over x to the third. A lot of people had this as their answer. We're excited to see that you're on the right track, but we want it all the way simplified. X over x to the third is going to reduce, so the final answer is 13. over x squared. Again, hopefully something on a multiple choice test, you would see that and it would remind you, there's one more step I can do. All right, we look at number 11. We do not have a greatest common factor. We don't have a common denominator. So what we're going to do, we're going to look, what is fraction 1 missing? Well, we've got 5x and we've got x squared, and the other one we're missing an x. So this fraction we have 8x over 5x squared. So now we look at the second fraction. What are we missing? We're missing that 5 in the denominator. So plus 4 times 5 is 20 over 5x squared. Now we go ahead, just like we did on number 10, and put them in the same numerator. 8x plus 20 over 5x squared. Now 8x and 20x are not like terms, so we cannot combine them. If you want to factor out your 4 and then have 2x plus 5 in here, you may. But in doing that, it does not create anything else we can eliminate. So either one of these answers is acceptable. Again, on a multiple choice test, you're going to have to look and see which of those is available for you. Last two. These were the two that we had a little bit more trouble on, I believe. So for number 12, what we need to do is I like to do find plus and negative. Multiply our first fraction by x minus 1 over x minus 1. So for this numerator, what we're going to end up doing is we're going to end up foiling. We'll get 5x squared plus 1x minus 5x, so minus 4x minus 1, and that's over x minus 1, x minus 3, plus, and then we just distribute negative 2x to x minus 3. So we have negative 2x squared plus 6x all over x minus 1, x minus 3. So then we just look at our numerators and we're going to combine our like terms. 5x squared minus 2x squared is 3x squared. Negative 4x plus 6x is plus 2x. Minus 1 has no like term, so that goes in the numerator by itself. And then your denominator is x minus 1, x minus 3. Number last here. What we need to do is we need to factor these two denominators here. This factors to x plus 1, x minus 1. And this other denominator factors to x minus 1, x plus 6. So now we're looking, what is our denominator missing? Let's start with the first fraction. We've got x plus 1, x minus 1. From our other fraction, we're mixing x plus 6. So on this one, we distribute. We have 2x squared plus 12x. And now our denominator is x plus 6, x plus 1, x minus 1. Plus, and then over here our denominator is also missing x plus 1 and then x plus 1 here. So on the top we're going to have to FOIL, or we see that it's a difference of squares, so x squared minus 1, and again it's over our same denominator of x minus 1, x minus 6, x plus 1. So then we can go ahead and just look at our numerators. What are our like terms? We have 2x squared and 1x squared, so 3x squared plus 12x and minus 1, and all of that falls over the denominator x minus 1, x minus 6, x plus 1. Hopefully this helps you with any of the questions that you had missed on the Chapter 12 test, or if you had not taken the Chapter 12 test and you're doing it as a review, hopefully this gives you some guidance. If there are things you're still understanding, it's your responsibility to make sure you get in to see myself, Mr. Whale, or Miss Cash if you have some questions. Bye-bye!